First, I'd like to give my thanks. The first is to the Theosophical Society of America, not only for hosting tonight, but as John mentioned in the opening remarks, it has been the home of sorts to the 10 Directions Zen community for about 20 years. We meet every Tuesday night in the meditation room at 7 o'clock every Tuesday. Visitors are welcome. And additionally, we hold weekend retreats here 2 or 3 times a year. So it's been a wonderful relationship, and I just, on behalf of the 10 Directions Zen community, again, I would like to say thank you to the TSA. I would also like to thank my teacher, Zen Master Soeng Hyang, aka Bobby Rhodes, who is affectionately known internationally in all of our sanghas as just Bobby. So we're here talking about Zen and don't know mind, finding freedom from anxiety. And Zen, from what I gather, we spend a lot of time working with our mind. How are we holding our mind right now, from moment to moment to moment? And an image that comes to mind, for me at least, as odd as it may sound, is the image of an hourglass. So an hourglass, it has an upper chamber, it has a lower chamber, and in between it's connected by a very narrow neck. So by turning it over, you have several hundred, perhaps several thousand grains of sand. And slowly but surely, thanks to the grace of gravity, they make their way from the upper chamber and transported to the lower chamber through that very narrow opening, which is the neck. Now, in a way, I think of my thoughts as all of those grains of sand on top. The thoughts and the impulses and the likes and the dislikes and the preconceived ideas. A lot is going on up here, believe it or not. And what heightens that, what turbocharges that, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, are our phones. All of the news, 24/7. All kinds of news, all kinds of information. Additionally, you have social media, where infinite number of likes, literally, likes, dislikes, where we're constantly comparing ourselves perhaps to other people or even to ourselves. So there's a lot of thinking. There are a lot of thoughts. There are a lot of grains of sand. It can be overwhelming. Truly overwhelming. Just talking about it, I can just feel a certain amount of anxiety building. But what's interesting is, like the neck of that hourglass, we have our moment-to-moment consciousness. Now, we can only really process 2 or 3 thoughts at a time. We can multitask, but really people don't do that very well. But we're working with 2 or 3 thoughts at any one time. Now, to me, this is helpful. I know I'm going to be thinking about a lot of different thoughts now and over the next, say, 60 minutes. But just focusing on the moment, from moment to moment to moment, just on those few thoughts at a time, gives me a sense of relief. And I think what Zen, and I'm not a teacher, I'm not a scholar, but from my perspective, what I think Zen, and especially our school of Zen, really focuses in on is the neck of that hourglass. That's what we focus on. That's what we work with. That's our jam, so to speak. Can I say that?
Your what?
Our jam, so to speak.
Oh,
that's what we focus on. That's what we work with. So how do we work with all of these thoughts? Well, sometimes we choose not to. Because sometimes those thoughts are framed within the context of our discriminating mind. You know, what we like, what we don't like. What we compare this or that to. What we wrap these thoughts with preconceived ideas. But what is also somewhat of a relief is realizing that we don't always have to have an opinion all the time about everything. Sometimes we think we do, and our habit mind, our habit thinking, we're always trying to plan ahead, we're always trying to do this or do that. I mean, I've driven to the grocery store, doing everything but thinking of driving and getting to the grocery store, and then once I get to the grocery store, I kind of forget what I'm supposed to buy, and I come home, and my wife is like, where's the bread? And it's like, oh yeah. So the idea of not always having to have an opinion is actually very refreshing. It's something that through our practice, through our meditation, we can look at these thoughts, and sometimes we may choose to work with them, but if they're not helpful, other times we can choose not to. We cannot attach things to them, and we can let them go. Now, one thing that to me was so revelatory when I started working with Zen is I heard people say, well, before thinking mind. Well, what's that? Well, what is that space between two thoughts? So there's stimulus and response. A coworker can walk by, say a snarky remark, and immediately we react. Sometimes we say something, sometimes we don't. But it's bang, bang. Stimulus, response. But in between stimulus and response, even if it's just a few nanoseconds, there is a space. And that space is something we can work with. That space, through meditation and other types of our practice, we can visit that space and try to elongate it, widen it. Now, we call that space in our school primary point. We give it a name, we call it primary point. And if possible, through meditation and through other aspects of our practice, we try to return to that primary point again and again. So we work with our thoughts when they can be helpful, and then we also work to try to find that space, which is all within us. That primary point is something we all have. It's just a matter of trying to return to it. And over time and with practice, we can work with that space and we can elongate it, which gives us freedom to not always react with our habit mind, to not always immediately lash out. We have freedom to choose. We have freedom to choose our response. And within that can be a tremendous release of anxiety. So with that, our founding teacher, Zen Master Seung Sahn, used to say we have an inside job and we have an outside job. Our inside job is to work with our minds, to get us to a point where we can better navigate our thoughts. We can work with that feeling of spaciousness. We can have that natural open curiosity and try to carry that with us through all the vicissitudes of life. But the other aspect is the outside job. We're just not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for others. We're doing it to help all sentient beings, And that's what I like so much and value about this practice, is yes, there are ways and techniques and applications to help us individually, but at the end of the day, it's about helping others. So these are all interesting topics, and I've touched on a few things. So you might be thinking, well, specifically, how do we do this? Specifically, how do we work with our minds to bring us to a point to work with that spaciousness, to try to get back to that primary point and positively work with our thoughts? Well, it just so happens I know somebody who might be able to help us there. Somebody who knows is able to point to this, explain it, and expand on it infinitely better than I can. So with that, I will defer to Zen Master Seung Hyang, and I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Craig. He was supposed to become a Dharma teacher this weekend, and I'm going to give him a hard time about why he's not doing it, but maybe it's a little personal, so I shouldn't bring it out in front of all. Did he do a good job, though? Yeah. So I will say a few things before I open it up to questions. You made it very easy for me to find a couple of openings on what I think is important. He mentioned the primary point, and you have to try it to get it. So I'm going to do a little exercise with you, and you really don't have to get up out of your chair. You can do it in a sitting position. So I'm going to have to sit up straight, and I'm going to have to put down the microphone to demonstrate it, but we don't really need the microphone for this. So you take your two hands, and you, below your belly button, go like this. Right below your belly button. Okay, do it with me. Good. So that's our center, right below our belly button. That's our center of gravity. And so many religions and athletes use this part of our body. It's your guts. It's your, If you do that sound like you're throwing a spear, like, that's the same place you were just tapping. Same place. So you walk into a room. I was, as it was in my bio, I was a visiting nurse with hospice, so I would walk into many, many different homes. I had that job for almost 25 years. So the nurses would say, they describe a new family, and they say, well, the husband's addicted to heroin, and he's been taking her pain meds, and the son is just put in jail for theft, and they say, oh, give them to Bobby. Because I worked in the poorest part of the city, and I preferred that, and I found a lot of warmth in these dysfunctional, quote unquote, dysfunctional families, a lot of heart and a lot of intimacy with each other, even though they had social problems, perhaps. And one thing that helped me to be able to do that was this below my belly button area, and primary point. So the primary point is, if you be centered like that, be centered in your center of gravity, and you learn about just resting before the stimulus and response. Just don't know. You can call it don't know. Don't know means to not draw up anything intellectually. You just give your mind permission to just be there visually smelling, hearing, tasting, touching. You're aware, but you're not thinking. So you're just aware. But when I say you're not thinking, what you're doing is you're accessing your intuition and your compassion. And human beings, in spite of all of their problems, they're the major animal that's capable of compassion and wisdom. They can expand their consciousness in a beautiful, beautiful way. And that comes from not thinking and from just allowing your intuition, your compassion to arise. It arises. So often we'll pick up a practice like Zen practice, and we'll think about getting enlightenment or getting clearer or getting more intuition or something. And we think it's over there and we're going to get it. We'll finally get it, like getting a degree or something. But it's not that. You already have the degree. You already have that human nature that's capable of this tremendous amount of compassion and wisdom. How many of us, none of us access it 100%, of course. There's examples of some teachers in the past that they're up there, very wonderful incarnations of clear people. But our job is to realize we can do that, and we can find techniques that help us rest the consciousness so that it can access these wonderful qualities and can hear and see and smell and taste more closely, more clearly. So for me, when I would be working with families in hospice, I would because of the practice, we have these like 3-day retreats, 7-day retreats. I've done many 3-month retreats, and because I'm 77 now, so I have had the opportunity to do many long retreats, and they can be so boring. I mean, there's nothing going on. We have the same simple soup and rice and salad and oatmeal and fruit, and we have basically the same menu every day with different soups, but very similar food. And so you're not looking forward to the meal. You're happy, you're hungry, and it's going to be we have very nutritious food in our Zen centers, but it's not like what are we going to have tonight? Because you know we're already going to have peanut butter and bread and the leftover soup, So, and some fruit. So that's all calmed down. It's quieted down. And then we we're in silence, so we're not speaking with each other. We're just speaking to the teachers when that opportunity arises. So we're keeping silence, and then we're doing the same chants every day, the same prostrations every day, the same length of meditations every day, and then long silent walks together. So it's very, very calming, and obviously it's not for everyone, but I love it. And so I just did that consistently through the years. I started when I was 24, and I was so then I go see a family with my professional nursing job. It would be so exciting. Like, wow, look what's going on here. And I would have the don't know. I'd have the way to center myself, but it would be like watching television or something. We don't have television at the retreats, so it'd be like I would be so enthralled with the social dynamic, the family dynamic, and the illness. How I could help with the symptoms, to make people more comfortable, and the psychological soothing that we can do when we're good at it. And it would be like I'd drive home at night and go into the driveway, and I'd be like, I don't believe I get paid to do this. Because I just loved it so much. And that's the thing, if you have a practice where you're training your mind to not know and be in the moment, as Craig said, it takes training. And then if you do that, you find not just compassion and wisdom, but you find your vocation, really. You find your skill set. You find what turns you on, like what you can lean into. My teacher used to say, we'd have a lot of college-age people come to the Zen Center and are in their early 20s, and I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what courses to take or what job to get. And my teacher would say, I heard him say this once, just well, what are two things that you'd kind of like to choose? And they'd say, it's these two things, but I can't decide. And he'd say, well, just flip a coin and do the one that, if it's heads, it's this job. If it's tails, it's this job. But when you do that, when you flip the coin and just have primary point, have no thinking, it's heads. But when you see it's heads and it's that job, you go, and actually you wanted tails. But you'll feel that. Your intuition will, you lean into something, and you don't know if you're all up in your head about it. But like when you flip that coin and then you just get this reaction to this or that, you go, you can feel it. You have to listen to yourself. We don't listen enough. And not listen with all of the opposite thinking, as Craig said, but listen from here. Like what's going on? And what it took me like 20 years, I think, or at least maybe 25 years to learn. After all these retreats, all this practice, finally I realized I don't always know how to handle this, or I am anxious, I am afraid, I am undecided, and that's okay too. You could go, well, that's what I am right now, and you don't have to jump into something. You can not even accept, embrace your confusion. It's not anything new with people. Sometimes we get confused, or we just don't feel adequate for the task. And can you just adequately embrace your inadequacy? I don't think I've ever said that out loud before, but it sounds good to me right now. That's a good quote. Adequately embrace your inadequacy. In other words, love yourself, love the lesson, love the teaching, love the situation. We were born into a very difficult species, the type of animal. It's the most difficult animal, and in so many ways. So of course we're going to suffer. And we're going to see things and hear things. I was talking to someone yesterday. I do a lot of Zooming with people in the early morning, and I was talking to someone in Tel Aviv just yesterday, and she told me that she's running to the shelter 3 to 5 times a day, and they're running out of the defensive missiles in Israel. You don't have to pick a side, but you just imagine she's living in Tel Aviv, and she's running to the shelter, and she knows that they're running out of these the Iron Dome missiles. And I hadn't read that until today. I was looking at the New York Times, and they reported that they're running. There's not an infinite amount of those things there. So I was just listening to her, and I said, I can't imagine what that feels like. I can't imagine it. And that's like, you don't have to be, you can't imagine a lot of things. So we experience that as human beings. It's so horrendous what we do to each other. It's like, what? So are you going to get anxious and depressed and just stay in bed all day, or are you going to find your vow, your direction, what you're going to lean into, and do the best you can? So we talk about having great faith, great courage, and a great question. So you have to have faith in yourself and in your discipline. It doesn't have to even be a spiritual discipline, but something that grounds you. You have faith in that I'm a better person when I do this. This is making me stronger. This is making me clearer. So faith in that. And then courage is just to walk into a room. And even when you don't want to, you know that you need to. That's your job. And the question really probably should come first, great question, even before the great faith, is what am I? What is this? How is it just now? So in Zen, that's something that's maybe a little bit different from the Vipassana practice, is that we really accentuate working with the question, what is this? What am I? How is it just now? So rather than assuming you're walking in and meeting someone, or even a meal, it doesn't matter, how is it just now? And so you're with it, you're with it without a preconceived idea. As Craig mentioned, not having preconceptions, but how is it just now? Or what is this? So when we train people in long retreats, that's one of the most common exercises we teach people to do is to gaze at the floor, eyes open. What is this? But you don't keep saying, what is this, what is this, what is this? You just have an open, questioning mind. And again, it's the opposite of assuming anything. And what happens, you'll see, even if we all sat for 5 minutes tonight, I don't know if we'll have the time, but you'll see that thoughts appear. It's the hourglass thing. And can you just find that space between the thoughts and then even let go of the thoughts? I often think of it, the question and doing a mantra practice, it's like displacing. If you think of a tub of water or even a bowl, and I put this into that bowl, it's going to displace as many cubic centimeters as this is that much water. It's not violent, it's just taking its place. So we learn to have the what is this or the mantra take the place of the thinking. And if this kind of thinking that we're replacing is tedious, habitual, attached, negative, not helpful thinking, then it will fade. It's just like a cigarette habit. If you can get yourself to not pick up a cigarette 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it's just like alcoholism. 1 day at a time, you just learn to draw your hand back when you want to grab the cigarette. And it's easier the next day. And it's easier the next day. And then pretty soon you can't stand the smell of cigarettes. I went through that when I was in nursing school. I started smoking when I was 18 or something, and I quit when I was 19 and a half. I could tell it was making me sick. But even a year and a half of smoking, oh my God, it was hard. It was hard for me to quit. And I did it cold turkey. I never picked another one up, but my hand would start going, where's the cigarette? And it was really interesting to see that eventually I just actually had an aversion to the cigarettes rather than wanting them. And I didn't train my mind to hate them, but it just happened. And it happens to most people who quit smoking. But so our thinking is like a cigarette habit, a nicotine habit. We're just addicted to thinking, but if we sit and go, well, what am I? What is this? We begin to notice the thoughts and can see what's valuable, what can be displaced, and what doesn't need to be displaced. So we have another thing. That's in that book. I talk about this all the time. I don't know how much I haven't looked at the book since it came out, but I always talk about checking, holding, and making, because it helps me so much. So with our mental habit, we'll check something, like we'll see somebody at work and, she doesn't look good today. Or she must have had a bad weekend. You're checking her, and it's, you don't know. Maybe your sister died over the weekend and that's why she looks so, we don't know. But you could see she looks kind of depleted, and you can see that, and then you can go over and say, how are you doing? How was your weekend? So rather than checking, you can just enter and see what's going on. So that, and holding is like, I'll never like that. I'm just going to use a work scenario. So I'll never like that person. And you see them, they come in every day, and you've decided you don't like them, and you're never going to like them. That's holding. You don't give it a fresh chance. So you don't do this. You do the opposite, like that, and it's just yucky. And that's an exaggerated idea of holding, and then making is if I worked somewhere else, I'd be so much happier. That's what if I did. So you just make that idea. I would be so much happier if I worked somewhere else. Rather than dealing with whether you're going to leave and to do that gracefully, or else if you stop checking and holding, you might get pretty happy in the job, actually. You might start to find the beauty and the warmth. as I always found in these lower, these people that were, I'm not thinking well today, but, socially challenged people that I would often be given to take care of. I would see, I could find the warmth in anything really, and it was beautiful. I still can, but it was so, and it developed my sense of humor to practice, because things are pretty funny, and other people, they want to laugh. And so sometimes I would just go like this, and like the husband that is being really stubborn or whatever, and I would roll my eyes with the wife, and we'd start laughing. It's not like being disrespectful. We just had to break something that was. It gets so tedious when you're taking care of someone and they never listen to you. He wasn't listening to the nurse. He's not listening to the wife. So we and I always say, let's have a cup of tea. I love to have an afternoon cup of tea anyway. So people would love that I would ask for a cup of tea. Just sit down and. In Rhode Island, it was a lot of blue collar people in Rhode Island. There was tons of factories in the old, in the after World War II and before World War II, tons of factory workers, and so I'd be taking care of them after 20, 30 years later. And but they all had the Irish or French or English background and. Italian, a lot of Italian backgrounds. But get out the pitcher, put the milk in it. Get out the teapot and have the bowl of sugar. And everybody did it formally, kind of. Whereas I'll just do it at the counter. I'll just get the milk out of the refrigerator and go like this. But they would always serve the tea, everybody, and we would have such a nice time just drinking tea. And I wanted it anyway. I wanted the boost, and I guess they loved it was so normal. And that came from intuition. That just came from intuition. Like, ask them for a cup of tea. My inner voice would tell me sometimes, or back off. Sometimes it would tell me to back off, But it would just be so helpful to practice and do my job. So, I really want to encourage all of you to find a way to return to primary point and to rest the consciousness and see what happens. It could be a 5-minute meditation every morning or a 10-minute meditation. It doesn't have to start big. Or it could just always be like that. But it's amazing the quality that you could find from doing something like that. So are there any questions? You could ask Craig as well if you're interested. Yes. Oh, you want, wait a minute.
Question, please. I'd like to record the question. So just raise your hand if you do have a question. I'll bring you the microphone.
Thank you. I really love and appreciate that, like you said, you are being paid doing this work. I would love to do something similar. Who did you actually work for? How did you start doing this?
My first job was in a nursing home for 11 years, in a Jewish nursing home. And I was given, because nobody wants to work, not too many people want to work in a nursing home, but I wanted it for the hours. It was like it gave me more flexibility. And so I was made a charge nurse of a 50-bed unit when I was only like 25 years old, and a skilled unit. So we had all these dressings and medications. It wasn't like they were ill. And so a skilled unit has more people that are ill. So all of a sudden we're given all this responsibility when I'm only a couple of years out of nursing school. But I did it, and I had two LPNs, licensed practical nurses, working with me, and they liked to do what I didn't like to do, which was recording things and all the paperwork. They liked to do that. So I got them. I was Tom Sawyer. I got them to do my job, and I did all the dressings and I had to call I was in charge of the unit, so I would take care of it. But they really should have been doing the dressings, but I was doing all of that and all the hands-on nursing, and they were staying behind the desk and doing the stuff that I didn't like to do. So that worked out beautifully for 11 years. And I learned a lot. I met some amazing people. When I got married, half the people that were at the wedding were from the nursing home, were the patients. We had these wheelchairs. It was great, it was so sweet. So, yeah. I love that job, but then it gets hard. It's hard, and I was ready to make a change. So then one of the men that was the son of one of my patients said, "You'd be a great hospice nurse." And I didn't even know what hospice was. I'd heard of hospice, but it was brand new. It was a new thing. And so I said, he said, "You should apply." So I applied for the hospice that was in Rhode Island, and then I worked there for 25 years. So that's how it, is that what you asked me? How did I? So I worked for Hospice Care of Rhode Island, which was a nonprofit agency that, very, very good agency, yeah. Any other questions?
Hi, Bobby. I like the story in the book where you went into a situation and it was kind of stressful, and you just noticed, how can I help? And you got these cold, wet compresses and got that and put it on the person and cut right through all the thinking that was going on around you. Do you remember that story in the book?
No, but that's okay. Tell me, what's your question?
I just wanted to know more about that story.
Yeah, I don't remember. One I remember that, I don't know if it was in the book, but I was on call. I used to take call at night quite often because I needed the money. I was putting my daughter through a private college. And anyway, I would take call 2 or 3 times and work full time. And I got called, and this person was having a grand mal seizure, and I knew what a grand mal seizure was, but I had never seen one really. And so it lasted, because when I got there, he was still having the seizure. And I know you're supposed to pad the sides of the bed and make sure they don't bite their tongue. Make sure they don't, but you can't stop a seizure once it starts. It's there. And so I knew those 3 things. You can't stop it, and he hadn't bitten his tongue. He was clamped down. So, and he hadn't, if he had banged, well, we got extra pillows to make sure he wouldn't bang himself. And you have to wait it out. And so when I came in, I did the primary point because I was I was absolutely naive about seeing a seizure, and it looked pretty horrible. But I acted like this is nothing. I said, "Don't worry, this is going to end. This seizure will stop, and I'll call the doctor, we'll adjust his medication. He's not getting a high enough dose of his medication, and we'll take care of that." I knew what medication he was on, so they thought, "Oh, thank God you came. Thank God." They were like, and thank God I just stayed calm and didn't act like I didn't know what I was doing. So, that saying, fake it till you make it. I'm really good at that. Because what else are you going to do? You start pulling out your hair and say, "Oh, I've never seen this before." So I just saw how much the practice helped me to do that. Like, I just was like, fake it till you make it, really. And you don't want them to, they're already so upset, so worried. And so many times I'd come in and the patient had already passed away, but they didn't know the patient was dead because they don't want to know. It's when someone dies, it's obvious. And believe me, there's no light in their eyes. It's gone. They're gone. And it doesn't matter if they're 5 years old or they're 95 years old. It's all the same. There's nobody home. And even though all the years I was a nurse, I didn't see that many people pass away, because we always sent her to the emergency room. When the nurse, back then, we sent her to the emergency room all the time if they got really bad pneumonia or got quite ill. But and they'd often die in the hospital. But this with hospice, we'd see, we obviously see people pass. And it was really interesting to see how, when it's your own, when it's your husband or your daughter, you don't know they're dead. You can't imagine they're dead. So they wait for the nurse to come. So many people, educated people. Is she gone? Is she gone? Yes, she's gone. And and so I learned that it felt like a birth to me. I would be with them as they passed often as well. And because I worked in labor and delivery for when I was in school, and I'd seen babies born several times, and to see people pass, it's kind of like you're rooting for them, not to like go soon or nothing like that, but just it's a passage, just like the baby's passing in, we're passing out. And I found it wasn't a negative thing, I mean, at all. I mean, of course, I've been married to the same person now for almost 40 years. I do not want her to die. I mean, like, I hope I go first. I just want to go first because I know how much grief there is in losing people that you love. There's so much grief. But you could also frame it, not frame it, just see that it's a passage. And we just don't know. Where did the baby come from? Where do we go after we pass? We don't know. We have nobody knows. And they don't understand genetics. They don't know where the baby, the sperm got into the ovum. And, well, how did that happen? Like, how did that life get created like that? It's just, you can kind of mechanically explain it, but it's a miracle. It's beyond our cognitive ability. It's the same with death. And so I appreciated that don't know, that not knowing things so much. But if you pick up on the vibes on what's actually being created or is exiting, it's pretty, it's amazing, and it's not good or bad. It's not. It's just amazing. And if you can appropriately support people, including yourself, through these changes that we go through. It's a beautiful life, and you come into the driveway and say, "I don't believe I get paid to do this," you know. And so we want to have each day like that. I can't believe I got another day, and even if we suffered, especially if we suffered sometimes, there's so much to learn, so much So a lot of what we talk about in Buddhism is you're born to learn. You're born for lessons, and everybody has different lessons. Sometimes they call it karma. So I named the book Composting Your Karma because these lessons or this karma that we all have a kind of a different recipe for needs to be digested or composted so that it becomes a rich part of our wisdom and our compassion. And it will, if we just, and don't think, oh, I should have figured, as I said earlier, you can back away from certain things because you're just not ready that day or that month to deal with it. That's not a negative thing. That's not like you're deficient. You're just not ready. But then you let it, I have another metaphor I use all the time. It's like you put it, like this can be an incubator. And so this lesson's like an egg, and it's not going to gestate as quickly as some other things. It's just too much. So you let it, you embrace it rather than accept it. You just embrace that, and you just keep it warm. And you can't like kick these things out. They're lessons. So just give it time and give it some attention. Breathe into it, don't know. And then let it rest again. I have a sister I haven't spoken to in years, and it's because she did this really kind of really crummy thing around money with the 3 other siblings. That she really ripped us off. And I was surprised. She was the oldest. And I don't know, it was really not a nice thing that she did, and it really upset my mother. And so she just doesn't get it. I don't know, we're just on 2 different pages, and some people, even your own sister, but she's one of my eggs in my incubator. I'm keeping her warm. Because it would be nice if someday, I don't know, I find it in me to think that we could have a relationship. But that's just a little personal thing I'm telling you, because even though I've practiced all these years, my own sister, I'm like just keeping her warm because I can't quite figure out how to have a relationship. So none of us is, all of us, was going to say, we're all perfect, and we just need to know how to keep things warm and not know about them. Learn about not knowing and giving it a rest. Paying attention. In the book, someone really liked the part where I talked about intuitively go into a patient's house when they needed me. Something just came to me and said, "You've got to go see so and so." That's not a miracle. That's allowing it, the ethers. I don't know what you call it, but intuition. Like, I would come just in time, sometimes, and it would be like, I didn't brag about it. I didn't tell people it happened, but it would happen. And I was like, "Oh, you got to go see this one first." And I don't know who said that. Who said you got to go see this one first? Where does that come from? But it would come from not knowing, from don't know, from that spaciousness of paying attention. So rah for practice. So, yeah.
If I could, I'd like to just add a little bit to what Bobby said. Phil, can I borrow your book? And I'm going to read a short paragraph from Bobby's book.
Can you hold the microphone closer to your mouth, Craig? That's the easiest way.
Okay, so I would like to read. It's going to be the last paragraph in Bobby's book. It's chapter 10. And what she was discussing it prompted this particular paragraph, which I love, and I'll read it for you. It's on page 107. The title just above it is "You Don't Die Alone." So here it is. As Bobby writes, "One time I told Zen Master Seung Sahn about my hospice work and how so many people were afraid to die. He said that when you die, you lose all of your friends and family. You lose your money and all of your belongings. But you don't have to die alone with a sense of loss. He asked me, what can you take with you with your last exhalation? You can take your great vow to help others, and you can say, take me where you need me. Take me where you need me. If you have been carrying that vow and direction with you throughout your life, you will absolutely know that you can have that with you as you go on your next journey." So I thought that was a remarkable paragraph.
Well, Zen Master Seung Sahn was a remarkable teacher, really. He's amazing. And I feel so much gratitude for so many. That's the other thing that grows with practice is gratitude. Because the universe is completely filled with love. And we're the ones that are desire, anger, and ignorance, just swarming with that stuff. And can we slowly make things simpler and realize, this is enough, this is fine. And that's why I like the Zen training, because we really pared it down. we pared quite a bit of stuff down with the training, and then less was more. It really, that's a cliche, but you really learn that less is more, and then you have that space in between to be yourself and find out who you are and what you need and what the people around you need, of course. And so when you're helping someone, this a sense of altruism, then you're not afraid. It's the best feeling in the world, like just to help someone across the street. You might have all these personal problems, but then you see, he could use a little help getting across the street. And so that 3 minutes that you're with this person and just clearly just wanting to help them, you're in heaven. You're not thinking about all these things that you don't have. You're just giving, and I think all of you know what I'm talking about when you just have that opportunity, just to find that spaciousness where you can be grateful and helpful. So I guess I'm finished, unless there's any more questions. Yeah. You're right in the center. You're good.
I've been practicing a lot of those things which you were talking about. And we often talk about karma. This word is overused lately. But we don't talk about dharma enough. Can you please talk about dharma?
That's what I've been doing. I don't know what you're referring to. What's not dharma?
I believe people don't even understand. If you can just say that one sentence, I hear you, where you're coming from right now. However, there is a analyzation for karma. We know what that is, but again, people don't understand what does dharma mean.
Well, if someone doesn't know anything about Buddhism, I mean, dharma is a Sanskrit word, and I guess loosely translated into maybe truth. In Christianity, there's a truth. I read out there, it says the clearest religion is truth, right?
The highest religion is truth.
The highest religion.
Truth is the highest religion.
Truth is the highest religion, dharma. So what is truth? What is dharma? And then you have the what is, and then I can hear the air conditioning so clearly. Or you're with a person and you can see so clearly whether they need you to back up or go forward, or a flower or a plant, a garden. Does it need water? Does it not need water? What is the truth? What is going on right now? So that's dharma, unfiltered truth, where you can see what's happening, any place, anywhere. And have the courage and the faith and to stay with it. Stay with it, even though you would rather go turn on the television or something. Sometimes we need to be out there and find that truth in some very challenging ways. So, I hope that's helpful. Any other questions? Good.
Bobby, if I may ask a question, as in this tradition that you have spoken about, I know there are very long periods of formal meditation, or you were saying 7-day retreats or the like. And I know that it's a great emphasis on posture. And I'm just wondering whether practitioners that you've encountered over the years, especially people who are still maybe novices, experience any that's kind of severe structure of it, whether rather than becoming very peaceful and clear, people actually become quite tense during the practice, and whether that causes difficulty for many younger students, let's say.
Well, yeah, so I think the Quantum School of Zen is actually the loosest Zen school in the country, as far as allowing people to stand up behind their cushion if they start to fall asleep or they have pain. And our meditation periods are a little bit shorter than some Zen centers. And just a sensitivity, if someone's getting anxious, then the teacher can talk with them. We have people sign up for a retreat and they last 2 hours. They go, oh, this isn't for me. Well, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody, because it's quiet and it's very, very intimate. But we don't stress. Well, we have posture just because it's better for your spine. There's certain ways to sit that, like, somehow I got very comfortable with this one leg crossed for some. I've never sat this way before, but we have to listen to the body and go. And my belly's out a little bit. My spine's straight. I think my posture is good right now because my spine feels comfortable. So absolutely the recipe for Zen Buddhism is it's always been a very small percentage of Buddhists even that practice Zen, let alone people that aren't Buddhists, because of the discipline. But it's a way to cut through. I didn't even talk about koan practice, which we do, but it's a way to really help cut through the ignorance and just, it's a beautiful thing, but it's certainly not for everybody. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I would add is that many times when we have new students, new attendees, they have certain preconceived ideas of what meditation is. And they have very high expectations of how they think they should be doing it. The way you sit is important. You want to be alert. But the most important thing is how you hold your mind. And we will hear, well, boy, my mind was this way and that way, and, I wish I could. It's like there's something called the default mode network. And it's just in our neurological synapses to want to think of different things at the same time, simultaneously. That served us well thousands of years ago. And that's okay. You're going to lose your train of thought. That's okay. You're going to think of other things. That's okay. Well, what's important to keep in mind is just being able to recognize it and just simply bring it back to your breath. And you've heard the expression, for instance, in sports, muscle memory. Yeah? Well, this is kind of like meditation memory, in that when you start thinking about your grocery list, when you start thinking about what someone said to you 15 years ago, or what might happen 3 days from now, that's okay. We all do that. Just bring it back again and again and again to your breath or your mantra. And it's not a situation where, oh, I lost track 20 times, so that's somehow 20 demerits. That's 20 negative instances. No, you brought it back 21 times. And every time you bring it back, every time you bring your attention, your awareness back to your breath or back to your mantra, give yourself a little gold star. Give yourself a thumbs up emoji, whatever happens to be. So you're not accumulating frustrations when you meditate. You're accumulating positivity. And then over time, with practice, it's going to get a little easier. Start off with just a few minutes a day. Or maybe a few minutes to start the day, a few minutes to end the day. Keep the expectations very low. One of the teachers in our school once said, he was asked, what's the ideal time, or length of time to meditate? And he goes, well, think of a number in your mind. So right now, all of us can think of a number of minutes that we would like to meditate every day. Whatever it is, don't tell me, just think of it. Great, now divide it by half. Start there. No expectations. No high bars to jump over. It's not on your things to do list, right? Just a couple of minutes. But try to do it every day just for a couple of minutes. And if you lose track of your thought, great. Bring it back. Give yourself a gold star.
I think we have one more question here.
Yes, hi. I was wondering, for the novice or for the beginner meditator, I have a really hard time quieting my mind. Thank you. You did just address some of that, but I was wondering, in the beginning, I've heard of something. Well, I practice something called moving meditation. I don't know if that's like cheating or what, but I go for a run and I try to kind of just like get in the zone, quiet my mind. Is that something that you think could be helpful or beneficial? Obviously, you're not sitting or posturing or anything, but if you're moving, do you think that could be helpful for a newbie to get better?
Very helpful.
Is it?
Yeah. We have a thing we call a mantra walk, where there's a couple of mantras that are very smooth and easy to say, and one's Kwan Bosal, one's Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhiswaha. Easy. Like if you're walking Gate Gate Para. So as I said, you just displace the thoughts with the mantra. And again, as Craig said, you can't always, you have to return to it. But it's great that you could spend maybe half as much time thinking on your walk or your run as you often do. And it's rest. It rests your mind and gives you that compassion and that ability to be more alert. So I personally, I do a lot of chanting and prostrations because I find meditation very difficult. I'm a very active person, so I don't know if I'm hyperactive, but I'm right on the cusp or something. So I'd rather be bowing. So when I've done my solo retreats, I do a lot of chanting and bowing rather than a lot of sitting. And that's just works for me. So you find what works. Yeah.